So, we've been doing a lot of practice asking questions, and now we know that asking a question is different from telling somebody something. And so, we're going to do a quick turn and talk. When I say go, you're going to turn knee to knee, eye to eye with your buddy next to you. And I want you to talk about a few reasons why maybe we might ask each other a question. Why might we ask questions? So go ahead, turn and talk to your buddy, and you can turn back to the circle. I heard a lot of really good reasons, of examples of reasons why we might ask questions, like we want to learn more about something, or we want to find something out, or we want to learn more about each other. We want to get to know somebody better. So let's practice asking questions right now. By asking some questions around the circle to try to find out more about each other. So make sure that when you ask a question, it is asking, not telling. And if you want to use our question word chart, you can to get a good question word to start your sentence. So I'll start, and you can go anywhere across the circle. So I'm going to start, Laura, how do you get home from school? And some other examples of questions they might ask could be, what's your favorite book? Or do you have brothers and sisters? Or who do you like to play with at recess? I really like how your questions asked something and then your answers told something. I bet we learned a lot of cool details about each other by asking questions. And well, good readers do the same thing with books. You can ask questions about the characters or what's going on with the characters, what's happening in the story, to find out more and understand the story more. And you can do that as you're reading. Good readers do that all the time. So we're going to practice doing that today, asking questions about the story and finding out the answer from the book as we read Click, Clack, Moo, Cows That Type by Doreen Cronin. So this book, as you can see from the cover, is about a farm. It takes place on a farm. So we want to get our prior knowledge ready about farms. So let's think about what we already know about farmers and cows and hens. We all know about those things living in Vermont. And so what are the jobs of those things, the farmer and the hens and the cows on the farm? What are their jobs? So the farmer takes care of the animals, the hens give eggs, and what the cows give milk. So everyone on the farm has a job to do, and that's going to be important to remember as we read this story. And another thing to remember is that this story is not realistic. Not realistic. Couldn't happen in real life. And one of the things that's not realistic about it is that the cows in the story type on a typewriter. And so I want to make sure that we all have a picture of a typewriter in our head. Here's what a typewriter looks like. Here's a picture of it on the title page. And nowadays, people do their typing on their laptops or their iPads or their phones. But before those things were invented, not so long ago, people typed on a typewriter. And there were no screens. Each button was for a letter. When you press the button, the letter gets printed right onto the piece of paper. So you're going to see a typewriter quite a bit in this story. So right before we start, as usual, we're going to preview some new words that might come up in the story that we might not be familiar with. So here are some of the new words. The first one is strike. Strike. And it's not like strike in baseball in this case. In this case, strike means when a group of people decide they're not going to work until they get what they want. So when they go on strike, they refuse to work until they get what they want. So we'll listen for that word. We're also going to listen for this long word, ultimatum. Ultimatum. Let's clap that word together. It's very long. We want it in our heads. Ready? Ultimatum. Four claps, 4 syllables. And an ultimatum is a list of things that someone must have. They demand them. They must have them. So we'll listen for that word. And the last one we'll listen for is neutral. Neutral. And that might be a word you've heard before, but we're not going to talk about what it means yet. We're going to, like we sometimes do, wait until we hear it in the book. And then we're going to try to see if we can figure out what it means based on what's going on in the story. And I bet we'll be able to do that today. So let's start right on the cover. Click, Clack, Moo, Cows That Type by Doreen Cronin. She wrote the words, and the pictures are by Betsy Lewin. She's the illustrator. And so we can start out being askers of questions right away on the cover. Because when I look at this cover, I'm noticing a lot of kind of weird different things about it. So I'm asking, what are these farm animals doing? They're not doing what normal farm animals do. So now we'll read and we'll see if we can find out what they're doing. Click, clack, moo, cows that type. Farmer Brown has a problem. His cows like to type. All day long he hears click, clack, moo, click, clack, moo, clickety-clack, moo. So now we know what they're doing. They're typing. But now that brings up another question for me. What are they typing? I'll keep reading and try to find out. At first, he couldn't believe his ears. Cows that type? Impossible. You can do it with me now. Click, clack, moo. Click, clack, moo. Clickety-clack, moo. Then he couldn't believe his eyes. So here's what they were typing. That's the answer to our last question of what were they typing. Here it is. Here's their note. The note says, Dear Farmer Brown, the barn is very cold at night. We'd like some electric blankets. Sincerely, the cows. It was bad enough the cows had found the old typewriter in the barn. Now they wanted electric blankets. No way, said Farmer Brown. No electric blankets. So the cows went on strike. They left a note on the barn door. They went on strike. They won't work till they get what they want. And the note on the barn door says, Sorry, we're closed. No milk today. If they're on strike, they won't do their job. No milk today, cried Farmer Brown. In the background, he could hear the cows busy at work. Ready? Click, clack, moo. Click, clack, moo. Clickety-clack, moo. So it looks like they're typing something new now. I wonder what they're typing. Do they want something more from Farmer Brown? We can keep reading to find out the answer. I want you to pay close attention. We have our question. If you hear an answer to the question, if we find out, give a little thumbs up to show that the book has given us the answer. The next day he got another note. Dear Farmer Brown, the hens are cold too. They'd like electric blankets. Sincerely, the cows. Yeah, I noticed too. We found out, no, the cows don't want more. They want more for the hens. The hens want something now too. The cows were growing impatient with the farmer. They left a new note on the barn door. Here's the new note. Closed. No milk, no eggs. Well, I guess nobody's doing their job now. They're on strike. They won't work and do their job until they get what they want. What is it that they want? When someone's on strike, they won't work until they get what they want. They want electric blankets. Okay. No eggs, cried Farmer Brown. In the background, he heard them. Ready? Click, clack, moo. Click, clack, moo. Clickety-clack, moo. That sound means they must be typing something else. Cows that type, hens on strike. Who ever heard of such a thing? How can I run a farm with no milk and no eggs? Farmer Brown was furious. Farmer Brown got out his own typewriter. Dear cows and hens, he wrote. There will be no electric blankets. You are cows and hens. I demand milk and eggs. Sincerely, Farmer Brown. Duck was a neutral party, so he brought the ultimatum to the cows. I saw a lot of your ears perk up. You heard a couple of our new words there. Duck was a neutral party, so he brought the ultimatum to the cows. The ultimatum is the list of things that somebody demands. And we saw what Farmer Brown demanded right then. And Duck was a neutral party, so he's the one who brought it. So what might neutral mean? He was neutral, so he's the one who brought it. Yeah, it means that he's not taking sides. That's what neutral means. You don't take sides. You're not on anybody's side. The cows held an emergency meeting. All the animals gathered around the barn to snoop, but none of them could understand moo. All night long, Farmer Brown waited for an answer. Duck knocked on the door early the next morning. He handed Farmer Brown a note. So before we find out what happens here, now that we've done some practicing with asking questions during the story, I want you to try it on your own. So our last turn and talk, you're going to try to ask a question about the characters or what's going on in the story to your partner and then turn back. So go ahead, knee to knee, eye to eye, and turn back. And if you find out the answer to your question while we're reading, give a little thumbs up. Okay, I've got one in my head too, so I'm going to be listening really carefully. Here's the note. Dear Farmer Brown, we will exchange our typewriter for electric blankets. Leave them outside the barn door, and we will send Duck over with the typewriter. Sincerely, the cows. Farmer Brown decided this was a good deal. He left the blankets next to the barn door and waited for Duck to come with the typewriter. Yeah, I see a few thumbs. My question was answered. I was wondering if he'd ever give them the blankets, and he did, so my question was answered. The next morning, he got a note. Dear Farmer Brown, the pond is quite boring. We'd like a diving board. Sincerely, the ducks. Looks like Duck didn't bring the typewriter back. So now we've got some clicking and clacking. I don't think it's going to go click, clack, moo now. Let's see. It goes click, clack, quack. Click, clack, quack. Clickety, clack, quack. Looks like they got what they wanted in the end, too. So, asking questions can help us find out all kinds of things, and it can help us learn about books too and what's happening in stories. We asked a lot of questions during this story as we read it, and it helped us find out about the characters and what was going on the farm in the story. Our questions and answers helped us notice more details about the characters and what was happening. So it looked like by the end, a lot of different animals might be getting a hold of this typewriter. So first, it was click, clack, moo with the cows, and then click, clack, quack with the ducks. I wonder, can we imagine for a second what if some of the other animals on the farm got hold of the typewriter? If the dog got hold of it, it might go click, clack, woof. Yeah. So I have a poem for us that is just about that. What if the other animals got hold of the typewriter? What would it sound like? So we have all kinds of animals, some that you just mentioned from the farm and what they might say. So we will, I'm going to read this first, and then we'll read it together, and then you'll each get your own copy. We'll put it into your poetry binder, and you can be practicing reading it on your own.